Hello everybody, Glass Half Dead here, and today, because it's been quite some time since we've had an FAQ about Kill Team, I thought I would throw out some of my completely 100% unofficial rulings. I even hesitate to call them rulings. This is just how I perceive these rules and how they should be played. However, I am in no way an authority. I haven't TO'd anything, etc. Anyway, there are a few issues with both Arena and with Elite, and I thought I'd tell you how I roll them. So anyway, let's dive into it. Oh, and look at that. I've gone double cameras, eh? If I've synced this up right. Good job me. The first thing we're going to talk about are the Drukhari, because in my mind, they are the biggest screw-up from Games Workshop in the Elite's book. However, luckily, I think they're also easy to rule. The way Drukhari obsessions work are each of the retroactively Kabbalite warriors and witches have been given new keywords, which we see here. Yes, we can see that, good. And also the new Wracks and Grotesques have also been given keywords, but obviously they actually have their keywords already because they're new units designed with this in mind. You can then give these obsessions. However, if you mix and match these three different keywords, which are Homunculus, Coven, Witch Cult, and Cabal, then you can't use any of the obsessions. Cool, that's fine. Very similar to how the Imperial Guard work. Great. Simple so far. However, there is a minor issue. Once we come to this page here, my god, I hope that camera is in focus. I can't see. So the thing is, there is nothing guiding us here as to what any of these 10 obsessions actually relate to. So, rules as written, I think you can actually give these obsessions to anyone, which therefore means that you still can't mix your units, but for example, you could give Cabal, can you see this? What are we even looking at? I don't know. You could give, Cabal of the Obsidian Rose, which is 100% a Kabbalite warrior obsession. You could give that to a Witch Cult or to a Homunculus Covens, because there's nothing here saying you can't do that. Ideally, GW will FAQ this and say, a keyword Cabal only. That's all we need. They've just missed a single line in all of these obsessions. However, the way I would rule it is the common sense way. So if you have a Kabbalite warrior, you can take any of these 1, 2, 3, 4 of these first 4, which all have the word Cabal in them. That's nice and easy. If you take a Witch Cult, you can take 1, 2, 3, 4. These 3. Any that have the word cult in them. And then the Homunculus Coven can take any of the other 3 here. That is the way it is supposed to be played. Obviously, you don't have to play it that way. You could validly give a Cabal, a Kabbalite army, Prophets of Flesh. However, I'm pretty sure an FAQ is going to fix this relatively soon. And they are also going to have to fix the other issue with Drukhari. And that other issue is the Wracks. So I've brought along another bit of proof as to how this will work. I will quickly point out that if we get an FAQ and it doesn't fix this, doesn't even mention it, then I will step back on everything I've said and we will play Wracks with this stat line. However, it's been pointed out that this Wrack stat line has been accidentally copy and pasted from the Mandrake stat line. This is not how Wracks should be played. We're only looking at the stat line. We're not looking at any of the war gear, keywords, anything like that. Just the stat line. Because, so far, every unit has copied pretty exactly the 40k stats. And so this makes absolutely no sense. And so the general consensus is that the Wracks have been a typo. This right here is the stat line that Wracks should be run by. They get a move of 7, a 3-up, a 3-up, strength 3, toughness 4. That's the big thing. That is the defining trait of Wracks. They're one of the few cheap options that Drukhari have to get T4 models on the board. Generally, obviously, Eldar are T3. Followed with 1 wound, 2 attacks, not the 3 that we say here. Okay, 2 attacks, leadership 7, 6 up save instead of 7 up save. If you want to view that stat line, there you go. That is how a rack should be run. And that's how I'm going to run a rack, because it's so obviously a typo. I think that's one that we can quite safely agree that GW just messed up on, right? Next up, we have the Deathwatch. Now, the Deathwatch are allowed to take some of the options from Adeptus Astartes, as we see in the Aquila kill team here. There is one question that somebody in my Discord, Rajusu, has asked, and this is how I would rule it. So, the query is, can Deathwatch take a Vanguard Veteran Sergeant? The reason this is a question is because if we read the Aquila kill team rule here, so they can take a Vanguard Veteran equipped with a jump pack. Okay, that sounds easy. But a Vanguard Veteran isn't a Sergeant. And notice they also haven't used keyword Veteran or keyword Vanguard Veteran, although Vanguard Veteran wouldn't be a keyword. So that on its own in a vacuum is simple to rule and say, well, no, you can't. Because a Vanguard Veteran is a Vanguard Veteran. They didn't use the keyword, and so a Vanguard Veteran Sergeant is not a Vanguard Veteran. However, there's more to it. Because, okay, and hopefully the resolution is good enough for you to see here. It clearly says 1 Vanguard Veteran in your kill team can be a Vanguard Sergeant. So to me, that implies that you are taking a Vanguard Veteran, and that is becoming a Vanguard Veteran Sergeant. I would say, quite simply, that yes, a Vanguard Veteran Sergeant is able to be taken by the Deathwatch. The reason that is such a big issue is because the Reddick Blade and a Grav Pistol is really good. So that is how I would rule the Deathwatch question. Now, there is also another minor rules question with the Deathwatch. So this is if you take over an Adeptus Astartes from Adeptus Astartes over to Deathwatch again. Can the Deathwatch be a sub-faction? Now that might sound like an obvious one, right? Well, hold on. For the Aquila kill team, all that happens is you choose for it to have the Deathwatch faction keyword instead of the Adeptus Astartes faction keyword. Okay, easy enough. So that brings us to the question of how do these keywords work. So it tells us here how sub-factions are aligned, and this almost gives you the hope that you could take a sub-faction of Space Wolf or Blood Angel, because that is not replacing the original Adeptus Astartes keyword, and therefore you could take an Inferno Pistol into the Deathwatch, or a Chain Fist Terminator into the Deathwatch, etc. However, we have to first note that the way you apply a sub-faction is that you, on each of the chapter tactics or the sub-faction rules, it will tell you right at the start here who those sub-factions can be taken by. And so to become a Blood Angel or a Space Wolf sub-faction, you have to have the Adeptus Astartes keyword as your faction in the first place. But of course, under Deathwatch, you are removing that and becoming Deathwatch. Therefore, they cannot take any of the Adeptus Astartes sub-factions. Just to explain how that works. A final one that I don't think really needs to be addressed because it's never going to become an issue, and even if it does, it wouldn't be it wouldn't be a game breaker, is that rules as written, a Crisis Battle Suit can take, potentially, if it really wants, 3 Kroot rifles. Yeah. All I'm going to say there is, yeah, okay, I'll allow that. It's probably not rules as intended, but rules as written, it's correct. And because it doesn't break the game in any way, shape, or form, if they want to take a Crisis Battle Suit with 3 Kroot rifles, that's fine by me. I'll let them play that. Okay, now that we've had a quick look through Elites, let's go over to the Kill Team Arena boards and have a little look about some things that I feel need to be clarified. This is mainly due to quality control printing errors, and I'm just going to let you know how I think these should be ruled, because there are some situations on the arena boards where it is obvious that the designers have put in deliberately, very obviously these were deliberate choices where certain models cannot move past other models. That is a deliberate choice. And then there are other places where they probably screwed up, which actually in this case is not their fault, but would be the printer's fault. Anyway, let's take a look. Okay, and we start on this particular map because it's an easy one and nothing's wrong with it. There's nothing controversial on this map, so this is a great one to start on. Here we have a 50mm base. These are my actors, by the way. We also have a few extras on the side that you can't see yet, just in case. Here we have a 40mm base, here we have a 32, and here we have a 25. A round of applause, thank you. Now, the 50mm base, I believe the only model that uses that is the Crisis suit. Nothing else uses it. I might be wrong though. Anyway, it's there for reference purposes more than anything else, and we do have this lovely steel rule just in case. As we can see, this 50mm base just fits through every single doorway and doesn't get held up on any of the corridors. This is a non-controversial map. It gets more controversial. Hang in there. The only thing that I'm really going to point out here is something I've pointed out before on this channel, and that's in this corridor. Now, if we take multiple 32mm bases and we stack them up like this, roughly, doesn't matter too much. Now, as it stands like this, you can just get your first model out without nudging this other model. It just works, even though I nudged that. Let's ignore that. But of course, this isn't how it would be set up. There would be a door here. So you use your first model to stay where he is, open the door. Brilliant. Oh, this model now cannot get past this nodule. There we go, we'll block it off with my thumb without pushing this model. There you go. That's an illegal move because he is now overlapping. You cannot make that maneuver. So yes, as crazy as it may seem, if you want to be able to get out of here, you have to do some really weird stuff with 32mm bases. Now this is of course if you're being very strict with the rules. This here is within 1 inch of the door. This is a 32mm base. And, oh, you can't make it. That's deliberately done by these guys here from GW. So yeah, you literally cannot get two 32mm bases past if one of them is within 1 inch of the door. There you go. So that's a fun little bit of trivia for you. However, if we swap to 25s, oh, look at that. Easy peasy. Now 25mm bases in this case are actually a really big advantage when it comes to accurate measuring with their bases in arena maps. Now while we're here, we'll talk about this map as well, because why not? Here's our 50mm base, the largest potential base in Kill Team so far, and it does just fit through all of the doorways. Again, clearance is super tight, but if there were any potential manufacturing errors on the board, it is supposed to be 50mm. You can get a 50mm base through every single doorway here. Now again, this is an easy map because if we look at the walls, the red lines, there are no weird nodules. This is nice, simple, good stuff. Okay, and we are back onto this one now. From what we just learned from the last one, we see nodules on the side of walls, which means the designers have deliberately spaced things for a very specific purpose. Basically, if things are just not quite fitting and the walls are smooth, I'm going to assume that is manufacturing error and you are allowed to actually make that maneuver. But on these have been put in for very specific reasons. We go back to our 32mm bases. If you have one based right there, your other one, we see, can just fit alongside it. However, if we have one there, your other one cannot fit alongside it without going through the wall. So this is obviously a lot less restrictive than the first arena map we just looked at, but it's still something to keep in mind. Also, it should be noted, on every single corridor, a single 25mm base, put exactly in the middle, stops a 32mm base from getting past. It also stops a 25mm base just. Although you might have to be very, very pedantic with your opponent about stopping a 25mm base. But it does do it, to be clear. Now, this is the slightly tricksy map because they are ever so slightly different on all of them. So these ones here, it does fit out of. Without much problem, plenty of room. This one, you can just get out of there. But this one, nope, can't do it. So, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, we're talking a few mil. But the fact that a single door, this door is ever so slightly narrower than that door, and these two are slightly narrower than these two, I think it quite clearly says that this is a manufacturing error, and even though the base does not quite actually fit through there, it is clearly supposed to. Okay, and now with our final map and our 50mm base, weirdly, the 50mm fits through every single doorway, no problem. However, it doesn't fit through every corridor. So here, because of these two nodules, the base just fits there, but it can't actually get through. Now, that is very clearly a deliberate decision. We don't know why, but GW said these two corridors, no 50mm bases. We can't have it. It'd be outrageous if it was completely overpowered. If 50mm bases could get through them. And there you go, everybody. That is Arena and the few weird little bits that I've learned while I've played it over the past however long it's been out. Okay, and our final small piece of rules trivia here is the Grey Knight Nemesis Falchion. In case you're wondering, yes, it is actually pronounced Falchion because it's a French word. We can get into that another day. I know you love my pronunciation videos. They are, because they are like my second lowest type of watched video. You guys are killing me, by the way. I put so much work into that pronunciation video, and I get nothing. You know what? Let's move on. Let's move on. I'm not gonna, whatever. Right. So this is how Grey Knight Falchions are worded in the original vanilla Kill Team rulebook. This model may replace its Nemesis Force Sword with a Nemesis Force Halberd, Nemesis Demon Hammer, Nemesis Warding Stave, or two Nemesis Falchions. And then each falchion is costing 1 point. When this originally released, it caused a lot of uproar. People weren't quite sure if, because there is no option to take a single falchion, it begs the question, well, am I paying 1 point or am I paying 2 points? And then if I'm paying 2 points, there's no option to only pay 1 point. So it was weird. Luckily, Games Workshop came along and they FAQ errated this bad boy to include this phrasing. Grey Knight's melee weapons points table change. Nemesis Falchion to pair of Nemesis Falchions. Boom. Easy peasy. We are spending 1 point. Very clear. Now we go back here and we go to the Paladin and the Terminator for Grey Knights in the Elite's rulebook. I'm going to read it again, but just so we know, it is literally identical. This model replaces its Nemesis Force Sword with a Nemesis Demon Hammer, a Nemesis Force Halberd, a Nemesis Warding Stave, or two Nemesis Falchions. Now let's go back and forth. Yeah. Two Nemesis Falchions. Two Nemesis Falchions. And again, this costs a single point. 1 point. So what's happening? Okay. Right. The thing is, let's assume Games Workshop is smart and good at writing rules. They would have written this because they meant exactly what they're saying.
and they saw that they messed up in the original vanilla rulebook, and they erased that, but then they deliberately kept it this way. They didn't. They could have easily put a pair of Nemesis Falchions in the points table for elites, right? Right? We have to assume that's possible, don't we? Because it's not like they weren't aware of this issue. The rules team sat down and said, "Okay, we know what's going on. We will deliberately use the same wording as last time because that's how this works. That's how we want this to work." And there is credence to this in the rest of the Elites book because a lot of guns that are already available to normal units from the vanilla rulebook have been given points increases if they want to be taken by elites models. So it is entirely possible that yes, paladins and terminators for Grey Knights are supposed to be paying extra points for the falchions. I don't. So okay, the thing is, I don't think there's ever a situation with Grey Knights where you care about a single point because you're so high costed. You're always kind of 4 or 5 up or down. I think that's not true. You're always 2 or 3. So it's kind of. I don't think this will ever be an issue. It's a single point. However, if I were to rule this, I would rule it as you have to pay 2 points for falchions if you're taking them on a Terminator or a Paladin, because that seems to be consistent with the rest of the Elites book and the whole everything costs more points.
Anyway, I'm hoping that we actually get the FAQ either this week or next. So I hope you've all enjoyed uh, this little episode of Glass Half Dead, which will be outdated within the week. Hopefully, let's all pray that it is. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Cool. Talk soon. Have a good one. Bye.
However, I actually think, even though that is how I would rule it, I actually think that Games Workshop is going to FAQ it down to being a single point again. And I want them to do that because that's kind of them just being like, yeah, you know what, guys? Even though we fixed this first time, yeah, we're just completely incompetent. That was a bit mean. They're really nice guys, honestly. I've met the rules team. Great guys. I'd love to hang out with them, have a drink with them, play some games with them. And actually, just to clarify, I think they are a great bunch of guys, and they do write good rules. I think they are spread way too thin, and I blame Games Workshop corporate for that, not the guys themselves. They have to write so many rules for so many systems, it's kind of ridiculous. Anyway, let's wrap this up, shall we?